As a former head of school and recruiter, I've got really strong feelings about this. You absolutely should be choosing the school first. And the reason I say that is that I've just had too many experiences with people who were so keen to get to a country because they wanted to live in a certain place, whether it was, cultural experiences or close to a beach or warmer weather or any manner of things like that, none of which are completely irrelevant. But remember, and I mean, this is the case in any school around the world, but in an international school, you're going to work very hard for 8 months of the year, and you're going to be immersed in that school community. You want that to be the first thing you choose, because if that doesn't work for you, it doesn't matter how glamorous or exotic the country is that you're living in. So school first, and do your research about what kind of a school it is, what kind of programs it offers. Is this a good fit for you? Is it something that you can believe in, really throw yourself into? Because if that doesn't work, trust me, you will not be happy in making a move like this. So I've got quite some feelings about it. Dee, I would welcome the fact that you might have different feelings.
No, I would say I definitely have the same feelings. It's one of those things where if you are leaving your life at home to go teach in an international school, you want to make sure that that place where you're going to be spending most of your time is somewhere that's going to make you happy. Whether that is you're going to develop professionally, or you've talked to people and people just have told you that it's a really enjoyable place to work, or you really align with the mission or the strategic plan of the school, right? Whatever the reason is, you need to look at the school first. I would say country is important, right? Because you also have your outside life. Like Glenn said, you're going to be working very hard. International schools, they definitely are kind of like a step up, I would say, not in like a bad way, but just because a lot of them can become almost like community centers, right? When I think about my school in Tanzania, there were, there was always something going on at the school after hours. School itself, classes ended at 3 o'clock, but people were there until 7 p.m. every day, whether it was for sports or clubs or a local group coming in to do something. There's always something going on at most of these schools, and it becomes a central focal point of your community. So which can be a great thing. So I would say making sure that you're going to the right school where you are going to feel like you're going to be part of a community like that is really important. So this is definitely something that speaking with people, international teachers, it is like one of those key questions that people say, oh, is it for profit? But I have worked at a for-profit school that didn't feel like a for-profit, right? A for-profit, this is where you really have to dig into a school's kind of processes and things like that. And honestly, it's not something I really learned until I'd been in the international circuit for a few years, right? So you're not expected to know everything about the international circuit when you first go on it anyways, but it's something that my school in the UK is a for-profit school, and as was my school in the Middle East. But the way it ran in the UK, it didn't feel for-profit because there was never any question about why a resource was needed, or you didn't feel like any money or funds were being withheld to better student learning. So if it is a for-profit school, make sure you do your research and ask the key questions. That's all I could really say about that, because there are some that can definitely function like you wouldn't know the difference.
And I would echo that. The school in Singapore that I led for 11 years was a for-profit school, and I mean one of my key variables. In fact, it was one of my metrics for deciding whether or not I would move from the not-for-profit school I was at in Canada to a for-profit school. Does it feel like it? Does it look like it? Does it make decisions based on resourcing that are resourcing decisions that are based on a profit incentive, as opposed to what's best for student learning and supportive of teachers in their shaping those student learning experiences. And so for-profit schools can be exceptionally good. They can be very generous in providing professional learning for the staff members, good packages, compensation and benefits packages, and mostly they do what's right for the kids. There are for-profit schools around the world that I wouldn't want to work for. There are some not-for-profit schools that I wouldn't want to work for because they're not particularly well led and they aren't well resourced and don't focus on what are the right things. So I think you should make that part of your research. But at the end of the day, it isn't as simple as saying all not-for-profit schools are well run and all for-profit schools are not well run.
I would say too that if it's something that is you're going into new, right, is start by finding people. I mean, people like myself, Glenn, who have been on the circuit for a while. You start to realize after a few years that the international teaching community is quite small. In my IBET course, one of the participants is in Hong Kong, and I was like, oh, you must know this person because he works there with you. I worked with him in Doha, and then he actually knew someone who I work with now in the Bahamas, and we both moved here this year. Like, it's a crazy small world, and if you can get a few people who have been in the community for a while, there are schools that, people will be able to tell you about them and tell you what they think, and there's kind of like an unofficial, I guess, there's, for lack of a better word, kind of tier system. It's nothing anywhere near official, but people know when a school is reputable and when it, you know, does things like making sure that students have what they need for learning and whether it's for profit or not for profit. So I would say talking to people in the community is also really important too.